Hey everybody, welcome to the Nightly Grind. Tonight is December 1st, 2017. We are inching ever closer to 2018. Um, and today is podcast number 64. So we'll jump right into it. It's been 2 weeks, right? We weren't on last week. Oh, because of Thanksgiving. Um, so normally we'd be playing a game this week, but since it would be 3 weeks, then we're gonna hit some news up. Uh, so first up is the Chinese tech giant Tencent is set to publish what appears to be a battle royale game called Europa, which will feature, surprise, surprise, 100 players. But it's also going to have dynamic weather system and destructible cover. So destructible cover, which I would assume will be something like Fortnite, is my guess, which has destructible cover that you can create as well. But the dynamic weather system could be interesting. The game is expected to launch next year, although whether it is available outside of China remains to be seen. There is a Steam page that is in English, but we don't know for certain if it's going to be in English or not. Uh, Tencent has also apparently been trying to purchase PUBG developer Bluehole, which I think would be really interesting. Maybe they could actually push them to fix the game. I saw something today where PUBG on Xbox, any Xbox One will run at 30 frames per second. Yeah,
Lovely.
yeah. So, there had been some rumors that it was running at 60 frames per second on the One X, but I have a feeling that that was under the best of circumstances. And the new information is 30 frames per second on any Xbox One. And for those of you who don't know, Tencent owns Riot Games, so they own League of Legends. They own like a 40% share in Epic Games. They own Clash of Clans. They own King of Glory, among a bunch of other stuff. So they're a fairly large uh, competitor now in the game sphere. But it's interesting to see more and more of these battle royale games coming out. They certainly have started to hit their stride, I would say.
I don't know about that,
You don't think
but
so?
not really. I think that it's a fad. Well, I don't want to say a fad, but I think it's just one of those things where you know maybe they're doing a good idea, maybe not. But let's face it, MOBAs have more or less burned themselves out, and this battle royale probably happened the same way.
MOBAs have burned themselves out.
Yeah,
Um,
you're not seeing like 30 new MOBAs pop
well,
up
yeah.
every 3 like you were, so the demand really isn't there.
I think that's because there's
I'm
there's a
sorry,
clear
that's a
there's a
problem
clear leader
because
right now in MOBAs. I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, there's a clear leader. We know it's League.
Yeah. Here's
there's
a
about 30 ones a day, and that's a problem because
yeah. Because it is apparently. But then you have ones like
That's
Heroes of the Storm, and I would put trying to compare MOBAs to battle royale games. I would put Fortnite into the sort of Heroes of the Storm style of the battle royales. A little less competitive, more cartoony. Um, it's got the gimmick of building things where like Here's the Storm has the gimmick of having secret, secondary objectives. I don't know, just kind of feels like that.
I saw pictures of it. And it looks really, really
Yeah,
nice. It looks like but it's how it
I'm,
plays that matters.
yeah,
So
yeah, I'm just saying that it's one of those things where battle royale games have been steadily. We've been seeing more and more of them. I
right.
mean, it just happened that PUBG more or less got hit at the right place at the right time with the right formula. But I mean, you had H1Z1 before that. You had the other. I mean, it just there's been a
yeah, but
lot.
aren't there still like 100,000 active H1Z1 users?
I'm
There's
not
still a
100
ton
percent
of
sure.
people playing that game.
I saw yeah, I forget how many it was. But speaking of battle royale games, I saw that the test server for PUBG was in the top 10 most played games on Steam,
Hey, they're adding
which is
mantling climbing on
insane.
all structures.
2 or 3 million people were playing the test server. Like that's they just have crazy numbers right now. It's absolutely insane.
It is, and that's the reason why you're probably going to see a few other companies really trying to jump into it. We've already been talking
Yeah.
about it. So it's
Soon
just
they're gonna have to buy their own server company.
it's a market is what it is, and there's demand for the product, so there's going to be a lot of other game companies trying to do stuff with it. But like I said, it's one of those things where, do we really think this has got legs and it's going to stay that way?
Well,
Which
it hasn't been. The market hasn't been oversaturated yet, though.
it hasn't, but it's you're seeing it. You're seeing a lot of places. Everybody and their brother is trying to add that game with it.
This isn't your standard MOBA, the FPS. It's more closer to an FPS type genre. So,
Well,
Oh,
the
yeah.
only reason I wasn't using MOBA in that as a comparison.
Just
I
a
was
new
saying-
type of game.
Yeah, I was gonna say when League of Legends kind of really you could say League of Legends was the same as way PUBG was. When League came out, you already had Dota out there.
Right.
And
League did
in
what
the same
Dota did,
aspect.
but better.
Yeah, and that's what PUBG
Yeah.
is. PUBG isn't nothing new. PUBG just kind of took what other game companies were doing and condensed it down into a better formula, a better working game, and that's what kind of just like exploded. The same way League did. League kind of took the standard idea that Dota already had and just made it more user friendly, which to say.
Mhm.
And
oh, they stripped all the difficulty out of what is it uses which engine? The same one that H1Z1 or DayZ or what?
I'm either
Arma?
way. I'm just saying that's one of those things where it's a great idea, but
It's a very accessible game. You can easily pick it up and
yeah, it's just that easy. Yeah, I'm just saying that it's one of those things where we always see that like that type of game take a major like, oh boy, everybody likes it. It makes a lot of money. Then every other game company on the planet's going to get together and try to.
that's what I'm
emulate.
saying. There hasn't been 20 of those games yet, and then people stop playing all the other ones and the one or two ones that everybody agrees are the best, stick around.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that I it's interesting that you got to realize something about the company that what is it called, Bone?
Tencent.
Yeah, they've gone after almost I think every major game style that's come out. I know they went after. I think this is not the first push they've done towards getting Bluehole or whatever it is, the guys that do PUBG. So they're going to be the same exact thing as EA and Activision. Just give them a few years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it all ends up washing out at the end of the day, with it being a new sort of genre of game. Is Zoom offset for anybody else with audio and video?
I have no idea. I don't have the audio.
Because
on.
video is lagging behind audio for me. Whatever.
Like I said, I'm not saying it, and it's a very easy, it's a very quick first person game. It doesn't require a lot of thought. You don't need a well organized team. You can play it single player and still have just as much fun. It's a definite break from the classic first person shooters we've seen. So it's got a lot to it it's going for it. It's interesting to see, but
Mhm.
like I said, it's to me one of the things that kills a gaming market, or at least kind of kills a game in itself, is that it's an oversaturation of product. Sometimes it's a good thing because something better might come out 6 months from now, but at the same token, it's kind of hard to find the good stuff when there's nothing but positive shit everywhere. You know what I mean? It's to the point where every few weeks we're going to be seeing another battle royale game. It's going to be, oh dear God.
Yeah. Well, I think hopefully it works out similar to the
Yeah, so
MOBAs.
the cream will float to the
Yeah,
top.
hopefully it works out like the MOBAs, where you end up with like one or two that are really good, and then you stop seeing them for a while because somebody sort of takes over as the leader.
The main thing that catches me with that is, and this is one of the reasons I think you could argue, I want to say argue, but you could say League is stuck around, is it's a time investment type
Mhm.
game. When you're dealing with like a PUBG, there's really nothing in there.
Yeah.
I mean, start the game.
You don't need to
and
level or something like that. Yeah.
cosmetics don't exist. You know, it's whoop-de-doo. I have a trench coat. That guy doesn't. Whoop-de-doo. You find 10 trench coats, so it's not a big deal. But with League, it's one of those things where you spend a lot of time unlocking shit in League, then you're going to be less something else comes along, you're not going to jump shit
Right.
because
You're
you're going to.
invested in it.
So the
Yeah,
MMOs have the
time.
same issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's probably the only good thing going with a PUBG game. Now, if somebody can try to get that like PUBG element with like a League system, where you have like an actual investment anchor kind of thing right into it, that could be a dangerous thing for the market. Hey, let's face it, if they do that, they're going to put in loot crates. So
There's already discussions of that once they officially release it, which would be
they're
a
going to
sad thing. We'll get to loot crates in a little bit.
they're going to have it.
Once again, we'll be discussing loot crates. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see, especially with such a with a larger. I mean, yeah, the Fortnite was a big company, but Tencent's pretty freaking huge, especially in China. They're really big there.
They got a shit ton of money to play with.
Yeah.
League is a bank.
They're just raking in money on that alone. And
They had money before.
I think King of Glory, which they own, was the most profitable mobile game last year. So they're making a lot of money, and they own Clash of Clans, which makes a lot of money. So
So they have money printing machines. They can go after money. So, like I said, watch them. There'll be another EA in a few
yeah.
years.
Well, then for them to go out and just buy Riot Games, that's a serious investment. that's no small investment.
And it's also got to realize that part of the world they have no the loot box and
Yeah.
the whole system that is not an American idea. It's straight out of Korean gaming. So you can see that they'll utilize that to the 10th degree because they know the psychology behind it. So
Yeah. Magic the Gathering Arena closed beta invites are going to be start rolling out December 4th for priority access members. Now, is this the next Magic the Gathering just like platform?
Saul knows more about this than I do.
From what I could tell, it just looks like the next like base platform for Magic the Gathering Online.
It might be. It might be the next upgraded version.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Magic the Gathering Online is a good system. I mean, you got to give it credit. It's got chops. It's been out for a long time, but they've only really updated the engine twice, and they really only updated the engine once, and they really didn't update anything.
Yeah.
They just kind of streamlined it a tad bit, made it a little bit more user friendly, and even that's a little bit of a hit or miss thing. But I mean, it could be an engine upgrade. I'm not sure. Saul knows more about this. Saul's actually probably going to get a beta invite for it.
Yeah.
I'm signed up for it, but I don't have priority. I think
Yeah,
Saul does.
and apparently early next year they might start sending them out to just random people. From what I could tell, based on their website, is it's essentially they're updating the game to make it more fun to watch, essentially, or play, because the other one's getting a little old. Showing its age.
Yeah, it's archaic. Yeah. I mean, like even the update to the new engine, there wasn't really an update visually or graphically. It was the same interface. And don't get me wrong, it works perfectly for what it does. The only thing I could think they're probably doing is that they have released a lot of the Planeswalking games, which you can find on Steam and such, and those have a lot more graphic pop to them.
Yeah.
The cards are like I think have 3D effects, and it's got more of that Yu-Gi-Oh feel where it's like the monsters like come out of the cards and shit. So that's the only thing I.
There must be. My guess is they're trying to recompete with Hearthstone, and they're updating their game to be more like Hearthstone, which is has the more animations and all that stuff.
It's a market that's obviously ripe for investment, so it's good for them to do that. I mean. Like I said, I liked Hearthstone. Don't get me wrong, Hearthstone's a very good game, but I've always liked Magic better, just because Magic has so much more depth to it. Hearthstone's got a long way to go to get the depth that Magic has in it. I mean, you can play 20 different people, and you'll never see the same deck twice. Yeah. And then, of course, if you do, you're always it's probably shit that they're remaking some champion deck or stuff like that, or some bullshit combos and stuff. But yeah, I got 30 decks made, 40 decks made on my MGA or Magic Online, and I mean, some of them are similar and they share a lot of cards. And like I said, I like it. I mean, I'd be interested to see how it goes.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I'll give it a try, especially if it's new. The thing about Hearthstone too is that the investment to jump in as a new player now is insane.
Yeah. And see, that's one of the things that's really, really nice about Magic is that they've done it right for a long time. And what I mean by that is Hearthstone is free. So anybody can play Hearthstone. But to unlock stuff in Hearthstone, you have to put a lot of time into the game, just like anything. Or you can, of course, throw some money at the game and get unlocks. Magic has an actual buy-in. it's like 10 or 15 bucks, something like that, to buy the game, which when you first think about it, it's like, it's kind of stupid. But at the same exact token, what they're doing is they're stopping botters from really, I guess, breaking stuff to a point, even though it'd be difficult to do, but whatever.
I think Arena is
But,
full free to play.
Full
I
free to
think so.
play? Then it may not be based on the old system. I don't know. That'll be interesting to see what it is. So, I don't know. But there's a plenty of in the actual online MTGO. There's a huge economy system just based around trading cards, and you can't do that in Hearthstone, but in Magic you can. And when you start your account, you get like 5 game tickets, which are $1 each, and basically that makes $5. You can get a shit ton of cards free a day if you go to the right bots and wait your turn until people hit them. But you can get 500. You can get 500 cards with $5.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking cheap crap cards. We're talking mythic, rare, super really powerful cards, because it's all based around it's a supply and demand economy. So if traders have 700 copies of a card, they're not charging much. So I mean, I got Saul into it, and Saul was even amazed what it is, because if you go to a card shop and try to get some of these cards, they're going to be like $10, $15, $20 in a real thing, and they're 1 penny on a trade. So I mean, you can make very, very good decks and very, very good stuff. And if you're a Magic fan and you haven't played Magic the Gathering online, then it's something you should probably go out and look into. It's a very, very good platform.
So this is from magic.wizards.com. Magic the Gathering Arena is free to play authentic Magic reborn digitally for gamers, fans, and streamers. So it is fully free to play. But I'm sure you buy cards.
I'm curious. I mean, I'm very interesting to see what it does, because maybe they're taking their economy over and they're going to make it free to play. I don't know. I'll have to look more into it. I haven't really looked into much at all. So
I couldn't find a heck of a lot of information about it.
I'm hoping it's not a new engine, and then they're going to eventually lose interest in their old engine, because there's a lot of people that's got a lot of money into that game. Let's face it.
Yeah. When Saul hears this, she's gonna be like, "Oh my god, I told him 20 times."
Maybe
that's what she gets for being absent. But yeah, Magic. Minecraft. Let's see. What's the Minecraft stuff we have? Last week was Minecon Earth. Is that opposed to Minecon Moon or something? Like, do they have them on other planets? An announcement was made that the next major update after 1.13 and the upcoming HD texture pack update will be called Update Aquatic. This is meant to bring new life to the ocean biome, including the update will be static fish, the ones already in the game, kelp, coral blocks, dolphins, and shipwrecks. Bubble columns are being added to the water that will have their own physics. Making its debut, the update will be the new weapon, the Trident, which fits in with the theme, obviously. There was a live poll to pick the next mob for the game. There was a possibility of 4, and the chosen one was the Sky Stingray that hunts players down who have not slept recently. Did we talk about this last week? I think we talked about the Sky Stingray. Okay, yeah. Okay, so they picked the Sky Stingray, which is the one you wanted, right?
Yeah, it is. You can't AFK fish up on the platform anymore.
No news if it hunts more aggressively depending on the amount of since your last sleep. And we'll talk more about when more becomes available. If you missed it, you can find a video on the full Minecon event on YouTube.
Everybody who hates Microsoft can thank Microsoft for adding more content to this game.
Everybody who hates Microsoft can thank Microsoft?
Yeah, because Microsoft, don't you remember the big stink about Notch selling out and cashing in on Minecraft and selling it to Microsoft? Microsoft owns Minecraft now. We talked about it. So the reason we're seeing a lot more development and a lot more interesting things come out for the platform is due a lot to the fact that Microsoft's controlling development.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be interesting to see what they're going to do. I'd like to see him really start adding physics to the game. I think that would be interesting, but it might be a little bit difficult.
Mm. Yeah.
One of the other things they're doing is they're updating the code um, in the back end for blocks. I can't remember the whole story. I heard it while I was watching another stream. Basically, this will open up the ability to put tons and tons of new like slabs and other blocks that just can't be in there
Oh,
right
I
now.
see.
Which is going to be awesome. I want to see concrete slabs would be excellent.
I would just like to
slabs.
see. I'd like to see a further development of the engine overall. Like I said, I'd still think it'd be interesting, like to actually make things out of blocks and have them free float. You know what I mean? So, like like I said, that's why I'm more be interested in seeing
blocks free float.
What I mean is along the lines of like actually being able to move blocks that are floating.
Like pick it up and move it without having to put stuff underneath it and then destroy the stuff underneath it. Yeah.
And or not just that, but I'm talking actually like making like an anti-gravity block or something where you can actually make things move and float in the water.
Gotcha.
Or make boats and actually have them float. Like I said, that would be more in the long term for like really pushing a physics engine in the game to actually have free flowing physics.
Apparently, though, the bubble columns will have physics where it sucks things down. They get
really? That's interesting.
So it's gonna be cool to see what people make in the world and use the physics of the bubble columns
to do.
Somebody will make some neat redstone contraption out of it, I'm sure.
It'd be neat to see that development. And like I said, I think they've already kind of been tinkering around with a little bit. They had the flying element in there with like the wings. And it looks like they're going to be messing with some more physics twists with the water. So it'd be interesting to see if they develop that further. Because I think it would be a lot more interesting and make the game a lot more for exploration purposes. It would be more interesting to see where you can actually build like vehicles.
You said the shipwrecks will have like stuff you can find in them, like gold.
Yeah, they're trying to add more stuff to do underwater rather than just the few things they have right now.
And I think what they're trying to do is make it a more exploratory game that focuses around like pushing out. I mean, technically speaking, it is an infinite created world at some point.
Well, how much time do you spend out in the ocean biome?
Right.
Really?
Or anywhere other than your little area you start in. I mean, I love the exploration part. That's my favorite part of the game. Just going around and finding things.
I think that's one of the things they need to push. Yeah. But it's like I said, one of the first things I'd like to see him add would be like the magic mirror from Terraria. So, like when you've gone exploring and you're down in the middle of a dungeon and you have no torches and you have no food and you have one heart left and your armor's broken and you're basically fucked, that you can just whip out your magic mirror and portal yourself back to your last home point. To me, that would be an interesting aspect to put into the game, because that makes exploration a lot more rewarding, where you can go deep diving into the middle of fucking nowhere and somehow still get out.
Well, they do kind of, they kind of do that by giving you the shulker boxes and the what's it called? Why can't I remember the name?
I don't know.
Good question. Come on, Torin, this is your fucking wheelhouse, man.
The little purple and black boxes that you can put all the shulker boxes in.
I don't know anything about any of this stuff.
I've never really used the shulker boxes. So. But I'm shulker is something you get towards more end game, right?
Yeah, they're after
you kill the dragon.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, see, that's bullshit. I want something that's an item that I can carry around with me, and if I die, I might lose the item. But if I have the item on me, I can use the item and send my ass back to my last save point.
Or if you're about to die, it sends you back. That'd be nice.
Yeah, even that would be, and with your inventory.
Yeah, like a free life almost.
So, I mean, I understand the risk reward element, and that's there, but it would definitely be a lot more. Exploration would mean something more. You know what I mean? And it would be awesome to be able to go out exploring and then work back to your starting point without dying.
You can make it somewhat rare to where you have to do a certain amount of exploring before you can start getting it. But once you start getting it, you have it.
Even exploring, like you put them in the shipwrecks, put them in dungeons, something like that, where it's more motivation rather than, oh, look, there's another tile you can build with, and if you already have admin rights, you can build with it anyway. there's for some people that's going to be an interesting thing, but like I said, I think they really need to push the exploration and make the game more adventurous. It's definitely got it there. It can really work with that if they just look more into it.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
that's my opinion.
Okay. Divinity Original Sin 2 hit 1 million units sold, which I think is really good for what it is. It's sort of a niche game to some degree. But it's probably my game of the year, I think. I still haven't gotten to finish the game because every time we start a campaign, we end up stopping.
I warned you guys about that. It's one of those things where you got to be. We played the starting area so many times that it got boring.
I started playing with Coheens and I got farther than I ever had, and then we stopped playing. So, but I really like it, and I think it's awesome. They got to so many sales for a freaking Kickstarter game too. That's really impressive. According to CD Projekt Red's president Adam Kikinski, freaking Polish names. An important production phase for.
That's racist.
What was that?
That's racist.
It's not racist. Xenophobic. An important.
Which is just like a PC way of saying racist.
That's not racist. He's white. Well, I'm guessing he's white. I'm guessing he's Polish.
Stop digging that ditch.
An important production phase for Cyberpunk 2077 has been completed. The engine is up and running. So, how many years has this been? Have we been waiting for this game? And now the engine is finally done.
I yet again, I don't really. I'm not worried.
I don't think it's going to be a 2018.
No, I don't think so.
First quarter 2018.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
Like I said, don't worry, Manny. This company has basically shown their pedigree before in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't put any money into it yet. I don't think a lot of people have. I don't think they've had any crowdfunding or anything like that. I don't even know if they got pre-orders up.
I doubt it.
So this is all just anybody that wants to go, well, they're taking too long. Well, you're a fucking moron. So it's just, when they release everything Project Red has released has turned out to be a labor of love by that company. And due to that, the games have been fantastic. So I don't.
He is a white dude, by the way. So I'm not racist.
Wow.
They were I saw that they were also talking shit about EA about being greedy, or they leave the greed to other companies or something like that when asking about how they're paying for the game or whatever, which I thought was funny, which is a nice segue into Electronics Arts CFO stated that the reason Visceral Games' Star Wars game was canceled was because, quote, it was too linear and they don't think it was worth putting the money into to keep it going. Too linear.
What type of game was it?
It was a Star Wars game. That's all we know about it.
Yeah, then maybe it wasn't what they
wanted. Well, I guess they felt that linear games are not what people wanted in 2007 or 2018, which is when it would release potentially.
I could argue that there's possibly an actual truth to that.
Yeah, but they also don't want games that are so big with no content to keep them. You just run around.
There's plenty of linear games that sell well.
There are, but it could be linear. Generally means it's going to be an A, B, C, D adventure. You know what I mean? Where there's really no break from it. But there's certain game styles that do work with that, and I mean, you could say like games like what's Naughty Dog's one they do, Uncharted. Stuff like that. They are straight linear games, but we don't know what type of game this was supposed to be. I know that they said there was rumors going around that the company they were giving this to was going to be making a Uncharted style.
That's still very vague.
I think it was an action adventure game. I think it was.
For all we know, this could have been a KOTOR type game where you want to build stuff into the engine or into the game that is a multiple path, multiple choice type of, a storyline to it.
Maybe.
Which is something definitely like, having moral choices, which can sometimes be really good and most of the time is absolutely horrible. But it depends. I mean, honestly, who cares? You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
is just who gives.
Well, I mean, we like
Maybe
shitting
I
on
can't-
EA, so
let's put it this way. We understand we like shitting on EA, but I mean, the other hand, EA is a game. EA is a game company. They've been doing this a long fucking time. I have a fair idea they know what their customers want. Um, Even if people want to sit here and bitch and cry and moan about stuff, they still end up buying it. So shut the fuck up. So I think if EA looked around and thought this wasn't something that was going to sell, I got a feeling EA knows what they're fucking doing. You know what I mean? And yeah, like I said, people can trash EA as much as they want to, but there's a lot of publishing companies out there that have failed miserably. There's a lot more dead, destroyed.
Challenge accepted.
So I mean,
well, yeah, EA was not doing well for a while there, and they've bounced back nicely.
they bounce back. So I mean, like I said, it just I don't. If EA doesn't think something's going to sell with Star Wars on it, then
No, yeah, absolutely.
chances are EA probably knows what they're talking.
I just find it funny that too
They couldn't
linear,
figure out a way. They couldn't figure out a way to get loot boxes. into it.
probably.
It's always it's always a possibility.
Well, they did it with freaking the new Lord of the Rings game for a single player game.
That's not EA.
No, I know. I'm just saying that it is possible to put loot box in pretty much anything.
Wasn't there just a story about UFC? 3?
Yes, that's what we're going to discuss next. EA is sort of back on people's loot box radar after an article came out from AstuteGaming.com, which I had never heard of before. I like the URL though, AstuteGaming.com. It was about UFC 3, which is the new UFC game, which is an EA Sports game. And essentially, you have to pay for loot boxes in order to unlock higher levels of skill boosters like striking or grappling or submission things. And here's a quote from the actual article itself. Quote, every single technique, ability, fighter, and stat roll is entirely acquired and upgraded through the loot box system. A brand new player fresh out of tutorials can dump $1,000 into the game, acquire the rarest loot drops, and immediately jump into online competitive with a beastly custom fighter that has exceedingly large health pool, vastly improved endurance, and substantially stronger strikes than the average player who simply pays $60 for the price of admission. So this is clearly a pay-to-win scenario, above and beyond.
I just think it's realistic.
I say they just.
You just think it's realistic?
I just think it's realistic because when it comes to type of sports and training element, the teams that have the more money that can pay for the better training.
This is UFC.
They're obviously going to be.
It's UFC. It's one guy fighting one guy.
This isn't like Rocky, okay, where Ivan Drago's over in Russia,
Pumping him full of steroids.
chopping wood. You know what I mean? Becoming stronger and more fitter. So, yeah. No, this falls back into my who gives a shit.
What?
Who
How can you
gives
say
a
such
shit?
a thing?
They don't give a shit about
Because if the market is there and they make
Oh my
money off it,
gosh.
and it's their, no, I mean listen, you can be morally
What if
outraged.
there was more to that?
See, part of it to me, I think, is they've been doing this with sports games for a while now.
They've been doing
I
it with
think because
games.
sports games are more casual players. They tried to do it with a more core gamer game, the Star Wars game, and people were like, "Fuck that!" And then so they do it with these sports games, and they're like, "Oh, we can get away with this."
I know that the sales numbers have been out to a point. We haven't really seen conclusive evidence.
Well, their
So
stocks have dropped several.
Yeah, and let's wait till after Christmas to see
Yeah.
how much what happens here. All right, there's right now the hatred is there, but in a month's time, people are going to go, I really want to play Star Wars, especially after the 15th when the next movie's out. So let's wait and let's wait to see how much that hatred and vitriol towards EA really is legitimate, because historically,
$3 billion so far.
yeah, historically in the past, the companies usually come out ahead. So we'll see about that. But I mean, if they want to do this stuff, this is the thing that gets me. I hate it. I think it's dumb. I think it's crap. I think it's stupid. I've been bitching about this shit for years with the fucking sports games where there used to be like, play through a season and have a winning record and unlock the, pretty much every fucking like classic team and shit like that. And now it's like not enter, give me your
Yeah.
credit card so I can give you like 58 Colts or some shit like that. It's like last year that team was free. This year you're charging me. This is something we've seen year after year after year. It's come to a point where it's common practice, and the reason it's common practice is because people are willingly doing it. So
Right. Yeah, but can games develop not using these practices to survive?
it's not a question of, yes, they can because they've done so in the past. It's not a question of if they can do it. It's a question of if it sells. Okay, if that game comes out and it sells zero, nobody buys it. The entire market basically says, fuck you, your game is shit because of this. All right, you watch how quickly that changes.
Yeah.
You watch how quickly they go, shit, here's your stuff. All right, but the thing is that we're consumer fucking whores. There is no, it's that's what we are. We're consumer fucking whores. We can sit here and go, I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. Yes, I have credit card. Do you take Visa? I mean, it doesn't mean shit if you buy it. It doesn't mean shit if people still go out and do it because it's UFC and I want to fight UFC. It they talk about like how, like, remember how the boxing games were like really big for a while there, and then the market like just disappeared
Yeah.
on them. I mean, it's because nobody was buying them, not because boxing was boring, because nobody was buying them. And the reason nobody was buying them is because they really weren't making the games any more interesting. They kind of like plateaued, and there's no other way to make boxing better than what they had, and they're like, well, there's no market for the game. Yeah, well, that's the reason why, because they released the game and it didn't sell worth shit, and they went, we're not making them anymore. All right, so the thing with UFC, that's the same thing. More than likely, if nobody buys UFC, they're not going to change their business practice because it's shown that it works in other games. So if they're not buying UFC, it's not because the games are shit or they don't like the business practice. It's because nobody wants UFC anymore.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, but it's just, that's it. You have to speak out for the games that are their money makers. You can't do it for these little cliche games because UFC is a cliche market. It's not a big market.
Yeah,
If you
no,
did
absolutely.
if Star Wars was boycotted, if they didn't sell 10% of what they thought they were going to, I mean, if it really punched EA in the
Yeah.
mouth, EA would change their business practice because they realize the market has finally said enough is enough. This is the line we've drawn. If you cross this line, we're not buying your product. And they would roll back and then and do it a different way.
Well,
what I
they've
mean?
already
But if
rolled
they're
back to
still
some degree. Whether they bring it back in
Yeah.
6 months is entirely different.
And that's
Yeah.
that's yet again, we don't know how
Right.
that'll react. But like I said, we haven't even really seen the extent of what the sales are going to be for that to a point. You know what I mean? They could do the Doom practice and 10 days before Christmas go, Star Wars, brand new game, less than a month old for $19.99, and I can guarantee you that game will fly off the goddamn shelves. Loot boxes or not. So, like I said, it's until the market, until peak gamers stop buying into the practices, whether they buy the loot boxes or not,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. They're going to continue to fucking do it. So who gives a shit? Fuck them. I'm not going to buy the
Yeah.
game.
No. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm definitely not buying it. I think it's a console only. I don't think they have it on
Probably.
PC. It's not really a game that you could play without a controller, anyways. Hellblade, what is it? Senua's Sacrifice. Anybody play that?
No, but
It
I've
looks
heard
real
big
good.
things.
Not
Yeah, it
yet.
looks really good. They hit 500,000 in sales in 3 months, half of which were on PC. And it generated over $13 million in revenue, which puts them past the break-even point. This is a dev team of like 20 people, roughly, something in that range. So it's a small studio, and they made an awesome game. 3 years, I think they were working on it. It's an exciting one. So I'm glad that they're doing well. Which that 500,000 in sales really puts, I think, Divinity into better perspective. They had double the sales in roughly the same period of time. Just crazy. And that's entirely on PC. I don't think you can't get that game on console, I don't think, right? Divinity.
What, Divinity? I don't believe so. It's another one of those games that the UI would not work well with the controller.
Yeah. I don't know how you make it work. that skateboarding game Session that we had talked about 2 weeks ago. That was they had a Kickstarter going. They met their Kickstarter goal within 3 days, and they had around $63,000 at that point in time. I checked it this morning; it was at 86,000. So they're well past their Kickstarter goal, which is kind of cool to see. And they still have 19 days to go. They got a while.
It's peak and valley peak. Like the first few days you make most of your money, then it dies off in the middle, and then money in the last few days.
But over the past week, they've made another 20,000. So they haven't died off too badly.
Well,
I think it's $19 to buy the game, to get a digital copy of the game.
Kickstarter, like Kickstarter always is. It's the first few days you have extremely high, then it drops down and like stays flat, and then the last few days you'll have a kick up again. Yeah. So that's the way it generally works. If you don't make money on your first few days, you're probably gonna have a failing project.
Yeah. So I'll be watching on that one. That one looks interesting.
But see, I'm going to kick back to this to a point, and I'm not saying this has anything to do with that game, but this is the same exact token of gamer mentality right now. I mean, how much money is that game raised? You said 86,000. Yeah. I mean, that's a drop in the bucket compared to AAA games and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where it shows you, like I said, a gamer mentality. You're willing to pay for something that you have no probable cause of ever receiving.
Yeah.
And if you do receive it, there's been far more complete, utter shit that have come out of Kickstarter than there have been actual successes. Yeah. So, like I said, that's the gamer mentality right now. They're more than it with Kickstarter in general, and even with other stuff, they're more willing to pay for nostalgia than they are actually for quality or substance. So,
yeah,
until that mentality goes, it doesn't matter. The game companies are going to continue to do it.
That's the thing about Kickstarter is you have to be sure of the people that you're backing.
Yeah, but even then, it's not necessarily a major thing. I mean, look at some of the games we've had come out in the past few years where you've had pedigree to them to a point. You've had developers that are classic developers doing nostalgia games. Hell, even Double Fine, which is a game company a lot of people think is fantastic, have completely, utterly failed on Kickstarter games. Yeah. I mean, you had the guy that did the Mega Man that came out with, what was it, Super 8 or whatever it was, and that was a cluster.
Yeah, people did not like that game.
So I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, there's no difference in all Kickstarter is anymore is a pre-order. It's just a fancy thing.
Pre-order on a theoretical product.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I still got Kickstarters. Yeah. I mean, all three of us here still have for Star Citizen, and we're still waiting for that. Which is another. If you're having we're talking about the land grab.
Yeah, where we have the land grab. That's right. For $50, you can get a 4x4 kilometer area, or if you pay $100, you can get an 8x8, 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer.
They need more money.
Yeah, they don't have enough money.
How big they say that universe is, and they're making people pay for a few kilometers.
Well, the area that you're paying for, I mean, you can get it later when you're in game, but you're paying for areas in a safe zone. Like, you can go later on and just put a base down somewhere in the middle of nowhere, but you're vulnerable.
It's open for attack.
Yeah, you're unprotected.
Yeah, you're paying for prime real estate in the UEE safe zones.
So is there going to be realtors in this game?
I wouldn't be
probably
surprised.
The in-game real, like the game itself will have a realtor.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised that there's.
Have I got a spot in an?
I guess you could always sell your plot of land.
Just like you, Bone, plan to be an exotic fish salesman. I
should buy a plot and have a fish store.
I would be not surprised whatsoever that will be if the
make sure that plot got water on it.
If the game functions like they're alleging the game will function, then yes, Torn, I can see real estate being a game path in that game, where a company will buy up planets and then sell real estate to different.
See, if I'm a realtor, I'm gonna pay mercenaries to wipe people out. I'm gonna get that plot of land in a nice.
No, yeah, that's exactly.
And I'll pass that savings.
Well, that's why you want to buy it in a safe area, because you can't do that.
That's exactly.
You wouldn't be able to do that.
So it's, but
but it's still funny the scenarios you can come up with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean that will be. I guarantee that's going to be a part of the thing where you're going to have people out there selling, I found a planet, you know, in XXX coordinates, pay me money and I'll give you the rest of the things you can find it. You know, they go out there, they build it up, and after a month, they come in and raise the planets, destroy everything, and then resell
Provide
the
round the clock security.
And then be mysteriously gone.
There's definitely going to be that element of gameplay, without a doubt. I mean, it happens in Eve, and it's going to happen here. It's going to, without a doubt.
Ubisoft announced that the upcoming Rainbow Six Siege Year 3 will feature a new co-op event called Outbreak, with the addition of a pair of new biohazard specialists. Now, they haven't given us any details on what Outbreak is.
Sounds zombie.
Yeah, sounds zombie-ish. But I'm curious to see what happens. I'm excited we're playing Siege again.
From what I was hearing yesterday from Ashcan, from what they said, I do not believe they're going to be charging for the next expansion. It's going to be something new with unlock with in-game currency. Okay, which probably will mean it'll be able to be bought with actual money, or you can unlock the entire thing with in-game
In 3 years, you'd be able to have enough in-game
to buy one character.
Yeah, it is Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Of course, if you talk like Anti said, if you're playing the game a lot, then it's not that bad. But I don't.
Yeah.
I can't say one.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if that would be it. I mean, what game doesn't need a zombie mod?
Yeah, I don't know any game that doesn't need a zombie mod.
And honestly,
Rocket League zombie mod.
If you really think about it, and I hate to say this, that might be actually interesting with the Rainbow Siege engine they have built in that aspect of like building walls and barricades and stuff like that. If think about it with the idea of a
that would be
Yeah,
kind of cool.
Yeah. So it's like you're actually trying to like keep out of like a safe house, or trying to like barricade windows and zombies are breaking.
There's going to be one that's got like some sort of explosive device on it. Goes right through a wall.
Where they could break through walls and stuff like that. That would be a really cool game mode in that aspect. It would definitely be an interesting.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I mean, I could see that being really, really
something big and tanky, a biohazard alpha with a tank that explodes when it gets close to it.
Yeah, now I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what the heck it is, because they just gave like some teasers of what it is.
Like I said, it'd definitely be interesting. I mean, the game mode could definitely function like a survival zombie horror type game. I mean, let's face it, Call of Duty's zombie games are basically just a small room, and you have to keep the zombies out of the
That's
room.
going to be a great thing about it too, because you're going to be forced to hole up and protect it from multiple directions.
And you can rebuild the wall, the window covers, and they're going to be breaking through the windows. And
it's going to be like the final part of Left 4 Dead 2.
Left 4 Dead, yeah. With better weapons, and like I said, that could definitely be cool. I would play the fuck out of it. And
I hope you can be able to move from one environment to another. Like if they start to overrun the area you're at, you
fall
can
back.
move to a new area. Yeah, or something.
And I gotta say this just for the fact of it, but as much as Ubisoft gets crap, and we were just kind of shitting over the fact of how expensive the characters are in the game, and this is a game that's 3 years old now.
Yeah, this is year 3.
And they're still supporting the game with a lot of content. And you got to give them props. The operators haven't. The operator content is not really that thing, but they have released a lot of maps, and they have not charged.
The operators aren't too bad.
Yeah,
they're expensive.
I'm just saying
the grind is ridiculous.
I wasn't saying they're bad. I'm saying they haven't released a lot of them.
Well, I think they can't ever release. Awesome. They were talking about having like 100 operators at one point in time. That's getting ridiculous. I mean, how many unique weapons could you possibly add to that game?
Well, that's it. That's it. They've pretty much tapped out on the actual like real world shit. You know what I mean? Now everything else they're adding is like, this is a little floating helicopter that shoots air bursts and fucks with your senses, and it's like we're really hard at getting a little bit, really, really fucking strange and shit. I mean,
I'm ready for a new game mode type though.
Yeah,
like I said, I've got zombie survival. That would definitely be neat.
We're gonna talk about Justice League. Has everybody seen Justice League? You haven't seen Justice League?
I have.
I guess we can't talk about it.
You can go ahead and talk about it. I know
Damn
it's a
it.
pile of shit.
It's not a pile of shit.
It's not. It's
I thought it was okay. That's what I thought about it. I thought it was okay. How do I talk about it without ruining it?
But I don't really care. Talk
Well,
about it.
there's other
I thought the
people that
Flash's
don't
character was really well done.
Wooden fucking horse.
I thought the Flash's character was really well done. I was amazed that he both plays the straight man and he plays the comedic relief, and they pull it off well.
Yeah, they did.
What else? The first half of the movie is incredibly rushed. If they didn't have to slow it down, or if they didn't have to make it a 2-hour movie, it's very similar to Warcraft in that sense, where if they didn't have to make it a 2-hour movie, it could have been a lot better. Some of the scenes were just like, what the hell was that? You're just in and out.
So what you're saying is where Marvel kind of built up their universe.
Yes, there's a complaint all along.
DC is kind of doing what they've been doing, which is let's see how much we can shovel into this corpse and beat it till it's fucking all in there.
Well, it just suffered from a quick runtime. That's all. That's it. If it had a little bit of room to breathe, it would have done a lot. I think it would have been done better.
Generally, that's what we call bad writing.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of issues. It wasn't a bad movie, though. I would never say it was a bad movie. It was just okay, and it could have been better. What else? I thought the villain was weak because they didn't have enough time.
Yet again, that's one of those things, though, where I point out. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but that's one of those things that I point out has been the major issue with DC, which is they're trying to rush way too much of the products.
They want to get to Injustice so badly.
Well, even if they were, I mean, I think they would be. They have to make a choice. All right, when Marvel did their movies, they knew everybody had a rough idea of some of the characters in there. Everybody knew who Thor was. Everybody knows who Iron Man is, but they didn't really have like intimate knowledge. They knew the comic book nerds would have that intimate knowledge of the character, but they knew the average non-nerd moviegoer would have partial knowledge, or just at best recognize who the character was. And okay, we need to build this from the ground up so everybody has a fundamental idea of what that is. And it's going to take 3 years before we really get to that punch card of
There's still 20 movies planned.
That's what I'm saying. But they realize that it's a slow and steady process. And when the movies start getting where they're really getting big, like the Captain America, Civil War, where you really started seeing like a lot of things come together, even if when that happened, it didn't feel like you were getting over fucking, filled with 500 different characters, because you already got a good idea.
You know who everybody is already. They'd introduced 2 brand new characters just to get the team together.
And it didn't feel out of place. And when they brought the Spider-Man character in, they brought him in with the idea of, who fucking Spider-Man is. We really don't need
We've
to go
done this
into
twice
much.
already.
Here's Alyssa. What is it? Is it Alyssa Milano? Is the unbelievably sexy?
Alyssa Milano. No, that was.
What's her name?
Alyssa Milano was in Who's the Boss?
Oh. I threw up in my mouth a little.
What was her name?
Oh yes. I can't think of her name. You got Alyssa Milano in my freaking head.
I can't. Man. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's one of those things where that was kind of a throw in there to go, we don't have to make Aunt May be a little old lady. We can make her basically younger.
Marissa Tomei.
Mr. Tomei. I had
Alyssa Milano.
But it's like they've taken their time, and it's like DC is like broken between the aspect of they're like, everybody knows who these characters are, so we really don't have to explain anything about them, but we're just going to completely go off the deep end and not make it have any kind of. It's like they completely don't feel like they got any kind of.
You know what I think has been great about Marvel? Marvel, they knew that they couldn't put all the time necessary in to really pay respect to the characters, so they put in nods, like specifically to the comic books that were very respectable, and people went, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like I guess we'll get to the new Avengers.
We'll get to the trailer
soon, but there's some nods in the new Avengers trailer that the comic book people have to be going, okay, that's pretty fucking cool.
Well, like I said, that's the key thing. That has a lot to do with the respect for the writing, and I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I said that it almost feels like they don't. I think I was that, or I was talking to somebody about it,
We're supposed to be talking
but
about
it's like
Justice
it
League.
seems like yeah. Well, I'm talking about DC. But it's like the writers they get to do the DC stuff don't seem to have the same type of appeal and respect towards what they're working on that the guys on the
That's
Marvel.
probably the problem. That's probably not coming from the writers. That's
Yeah.
coming from the higher ups.
Well, even if that's the case, it's one of those things where we should be seeing more kickback on that, And it's like, I mean, you don't want to get somebody that's a Shakespearean type director doing a DC type movie. Maybe it's directors they're not getting right. Maybe they're going with this guy's a big name. We'll throw him in there, and he's completely bad for the genre. You know what I mean? There's certain directors that really excel at certain types of movies that are really bad at other types of movies in some aspects. And the good ones know to avoid the type of things that aren't
I
there.
think DC's in a place now when anything new comes out, people are already going.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know.
yeah, but Wonder Woman came out and was people liked it right away.
Yeah, people did like it, and but it was one of those things where
How much did Marvel play a role
In Wonder Woman?
well, yeah,
None?
but you got to realize that how much of Wonder Woman was a good movie, and I haven't seen it yet either, but I've heard it's
I liked it.
fantastic.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
But most
It is. It's
people I
amazing.
heard the comment wasn't it wasn't a great it was a good movie, but it was almost always prefaced by I wasn't expecting it to be good. You know what I mean? I was surprised that DC finally came out
Yeah,
with something.
I didn't have that feeling.
That's what I'm saying. When people go into a DC when they see anything DC now, it's like, oh, this is gonna.
Their expectations are not on the same level as they would be
Sure.
for other movies. You know what I mean? They're going in there and they're like, surprise me. And when it actually turns out to be good, it turns out to be there's more to it.
Like I said,
You
if
know
the
what I mean?
if Justice League would have been 2 hours and a half, and they had just that 30 minutes to help move the story a little, or a little richer story, and a little more on the back characters and stuff like that, they would have been
Giving Steppenwolf something to work with, anything,
right.
And the CGI at times was abysmal. It was okay most of the time, but there was a few places I was like, "Eek, that was not good." Did you see Superman's face? You know that beginning clip where with the two kids, where he's talking to those two kids. It's like a flashback.
The cell phone smile.
Did you see his face?
I heard that was horrible.
I don't know what they did, but it was awful looking.
That was because that was the scenes that had to be reshot. And at the time he was there, the actor, whatever the fucker's name is,
he was Henry Cavill.
He was filming another movie with a mustache, and he couldn't shave the mustache to do the reshots.
Awful.
So he did the scenes, and then they went in and digitally took out the mustache.
Yeah,
because that's the only way they could do it. So I heard those were atrocious.
It was real
because
bad.
They couldn't do it.
I gotta say, at the end of the movie, he finally felt like Superman. Like he felt. You don't think so?
That's a spoiler and a half.
I don't think it's a spoiler that we've been talking about Superman coming back for a very long time.
Oh,
come on! They give it away in the fucking trailers.
We've been talking about Superman going to be in this movie for a very long time. It's not a spoiler. Everybody knows.
Yeah, we were thinking he was gonna come back for the second movie, though.
Like it's.
Anyways,
are we gonna see a second movie, and is it really worth it at this point?
I don't think we will.
Or is it or does DC really need to focus on not giving a fuck about what the Marvel's doing on their side and the massive system, the money generating beast that Marvel has, and instead of
WB made the decision on the time restraint.
I listen, I'm not saying that, but I mean, I don't think DC's strength is in the Justice League right now. I think DC needs to build up and do what Marvel and focus more on character development for the individual characters. You finally get them together in something. There's more substance to it than what it was.
Well, I think now that they have Justice League, they can focus on the individuals. Like, all right, we've done this thing. We know we can fight together. Let's focus on. Let's get the Flash, because the Flash and.
Are you going to see a Cyborg solo movie?
Because the Flash and Cyborg were both brand new superheroes in this movie. They're both very fresh. Like Cyborg in this movie, he's still getting powers throughout the movie. He's very new. So I think they can do a lot with those two characters, especially We haven't seen the Green Lantern yet. They very briefly hint at the idea that there's a Green Lantern out there somewhere in one of like the flashbacks to when Steppenwolf
Until
first
I
came
see
to Earth.
Apache. Until I
It's
see
like-
Apache Chief.
Apache Chief.
I
So we have
want
Green
Apache
Lanterns
Chief.
out there.
Well, listen, this is
They
the
got a
thing
lot of
with that.
opportunities.
Now that you've popped the proverbial cherry of the Justice League movies and have it out there, I mean, you could easily now start doing solo title movies, and then basically have every Green Arrow, or I can't think of any of the characters in fucking DC, but I mean, you could easily bring these characters out now, all right, and then pretty much during the movie tie into the Justice League.
Supergirl.
You know, where you could have characters like, basically being scouted by Batman, where you see like Ben Affleck if he comes back.
I don't
rumor
know. I
has
think
it
he's done.
I mean, but you could have the Batman character, whoever's filling that, basically scouting them out, and have like every movie be a scout movie, basically, where you're seeing the character evolve in their own right and how they're eventually coming into their own, which to say, and then being inducted
Sure.
into the Justice League, and not have to worry about really like making every situation a Justice League situation, because Justice League situations are basically along the lines of like extinction level event
Yeah.
things where we
They can
need
do
to get all the God characters together to deal with this. So Batman can tell us how to solve it, and then Superman can be over there and punch him in the face. So like I said, that's DC's biggest fucking weakness, and we talked about this like time and time again. And like I said, I bash DC a lot. I like a lot of the stuff DC does. I just think the writing for what they've done movie wise has been atrocious, and it's sad because there's so much out there that they could really. The content that's available for them is fantastic, and I think Justice would be a great way to do it. But it's one of those things where they've spent way too much time building up characters, and it's kind of like Batman is such a fundamental character in the universe, and so is Superman. And you have a Superman character right now that basically is completely different than the way he is in the comics to a point.
He starts being much more comic-like at the end. That's what I'm saying.
Well, but see, the problem with that though is that they shouldn't be pushing him that. It shouldn't be that he's evolving into that. It should be that he's there, and that's what he is. Because Injustice has to have Superman's innocence being taken from him.
They sort of hint at how Injustice could happen in this movie with Lois. I don't want to give too much away. But after that one scene with Lois and Superman, I was like, he's gonna be pissed when she dies.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I've heard Ben Affleck's Batman is more of a grizzled old, I don't give a shit, I'm gonna kill people if they're fucking bad. And see, that's counter to Injustice as well. So it's like I don't think they can dive into Injustice with that, because if Superman's already killed Zod.
Yeah.
All right, killed him. So we've already seen that Superman's got no problem to kill somebody when he's provoked to do something.
Yeah, but after this movie, you have to see the movie, because I think
Batman-
he sort of he was new as Superman when that happened. He didn't really know who he was as Superman.
But see, that in there, like I said, it just it won't feel the same. The thing that makes the start of Injustice have so much poignancy and means something, and it's like the fundamental building block of that is the Joker succeeds in doing what he's been trying to do to Batman forever, and that's get somebody to kill him and show he's just as bad as the Joker is. The Joker does that to Superman, and Superman kills him. All right, and that basically makes Batman freak out, because you shouldn't do. Batman's completely against that aspect of what's going on, and then Superman basically goes, "Fuck it." The only way I can protect everybody is by basically becoming an authoritarian in that aspect. I have that power. I'm going to use that power to make the world safe. And if that means that I want jaywalkers to be hung from street posts, then I'm going to hang jaywalkers from street lamps. I mean, that's it's such a fundamental 180 for Superman. It goes from somebody that's completely opposed to that type of action to somebody who's willingly doing it without a second fucking thought. So I mean, but if you have to build up to that. You have to have an understanding of that, and that's. I don't think they're going the right way with that. I really don't. When Superman snaps Zod's neck because the laser, after the city's already been destroyed and there's thousands of hundreds of thousands of people dead. But that one, the one that Superman sees, after being thrown through 3 buildings and watching them collapse, he didn't see anybody die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the one he sees, that's the one that finally makes him take the. The character's already fucked with that.
Well, that's why I'm saying that it makes it feel like he's new at this, and in this movie, he is much more like your normal Superman is. It's at the end. It's hard to give it all away without giving everything what he does away, but he's much more Superman-like.
The other key thing here with this is that I don't know if they can run with that story arc, because as far as we know, we haven't seen a Joker with this current iteration of.
Well, we know he's out there because he kills Robin.
We know he's out there.
He said that we had the ha jokes on you with Robin on Robin's outfit.
We have seen the Joker. Actually, we have seen the Joker.
That's right. I forgot about that.
But we also haven't seen the Joker really. I mean, that's if they're going to plan to do that. Jared Leto signed a really interesting contract, because it's basically I have a 30-minute cameo, which is not really a cameo, in Suicide Squad, and then my next scene is going to be me getting my heart ripped out by Superman. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's the only way you could possibly do that is stretch the injustice out. Is the next movie's going to basically be written where Joker is the main villain, and it's the episode leading up to the end, and the end of that movie will be Injustice, with the Joker doing what he does, killing Lois, and then Superman just snapping, ripping his heart out, and that will be the end of the movie. You know what I mean? Well, think about that. That would be an awesome closing scene for a movie where you just basically see the Superman character just sit there, look at it, and Batman's behind him, and Robin's sitting there. I mean, everybody's there on the beach, dead. Basically. Well, okay, but I'm saying Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's sitting there, and the Joker, Leto's just sitting there laughing his ass off because he basically won, and then Superman just turning around and fucking killing him. And then just that moment of like shock, go to credits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That would be like
Sopranos style.
The best fucking end. I'm just saying, but that would be like one of the best fucking endings ever. No, I'm not even talking fade to black. I'm talking like visceral funk, and you see that look of shock and horror on everybody's face. And then that's where it goes to credits. That's where the movie ends. And then at the end, you do your standard, everybody does a cutscene at the end where you see that the next movie's going to be the beginning of the resistance against the New World Order of Superman in control. That would be an awesome fucking way to end it. So maybe they can do that. You know?
I don't know.
It's yet again, that requires good writing, and we haven't seen that. So,
I don't know. Net neutrality vote's coming up on the 14th, so email your senators and representatives because it is important.
They can't make it any easier. You go in, you
just put in your address, your zip code, and they tell you their emails of your representatives.
And it gives you a message you can
just do it yourself. You don't you don't even have to use those messaging things.
I wouldn't do it anyway. I would do something unique.
Yeah, I always just do it.
And don't be afraid to say, if you're my senator and we're going to be paying attention, if you're not going to vote properly for this, we don't vote for you. Hey, don't be afraid to say something. I won't vote for you next time around if you don't fucking get on board.
Yeah, this affects everybody. There's no political thing here. It's everybody. Everybody should be on board with this. What is this? Funny story? Ars Technica is reporting a story of a 60-year-old electrician who was an employee for the Western Australian Water Management Joint Venture Aruna Alliance. Foiled the GPS device in his work PDA 140 times to skip work and go play golf and enjoy other leisurely activities by bringing bags of Smith's Twisties, which are similar to Cheetos, with him daily, folding up the empty bags into packets, using them to create mini Faraday cages to store the device in while he was fucking off. The bag contained a foil made for a mixture of aluminum and mylar, which insulated and kept him from being pinged by the towers. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Bitcoin's over $11,350 per coin. It fell back down to 9,200, which I saw it's back over to 10,000, isn't it? I thought it's
I
backed
think
over to
so.
10,000. It's on its way up. I wish I'd gotten into it years ago, but as soon as I get into it, it's gonna just crash. So I might as well stay
That's
out
the
of
market right now.
it.
I saw a meme the other day of this chick going, I'm leaving you. I'm just looking for someone better. All you do is sit around
Yeah.
and talk about your stupid digital Bitcoin. And then like 7 years later, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, freaking bitcoins.
How you been?
Microtransaction. A report by the market research data firm SuperData gives some figures on just how much the microtransaction business is actually worth. In 2017, FTP gamers,
Yeah, free to
I
play
see.
games.
Are expected to shell out $22 billion in in-game purchases. That's nearly
Yeah, that's probably a lot of that's probably
yeah.
mobile.
That's nearly 3 times
Yeah.
more than all the rest of the full game sales combined, which is expected to be $8
And
billion.
yet again, it goes back to my rant earlier. Guess what? It's not going anywhere. Get used to it. It's here to stay. That's
The
the
report
market.
had a section that covers microtransactions and DLC that was reported to be another $5 billion this year. It's big money.
So that's 27 billions microtransactions and only 8 billion in regular game purchases.
If you were to break that down even further, we've talked about this many years, guys, even before we started doing these little dinky podcasts.
Stinky.
We talked about. I've talked about it for years now with the whole Korean gaming model of you release the game for free and you make all of your money on your in-game currency, your in-game items. It's psychology. That's all it is.
Well, here's the thing. In just what was it, 5 years? They went from I think it was it was. I put the fact in there. It went up like 1,000. I can't remember how much.
I didn't see that.
I wouldn't be. I mean, I said I'm not sure about how much it's gone up. I just know that the way the game
In 5 years, it's gone up like 10 or 15 billion dollars, which means that they've honed their skills on how to appeal to your basic senses.
I'm going to argue. Only reason I'm going to argue against that is because in the same period of time, we've seen it gone from a relatively cliche or niche market to a widely accepted business practice. And that, if you were to go back 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you're not going to see the amount of microtransactions in games that you do now. I mean, everybody has them in the games now. It is literally, it's ubiquitous. You cannot turn a game on and not have some type of microtransaction system on it. I think you'd be hard pressed to find it. But like I said, that's where it boils back down to. That's another reason why you've seen such a massive increase and why there's substantially a higher percentage than it was because everybody's doing it now. But I mean, you're talking about $27 billion in profit. All right, this is basically
if it's on shit that's already in the game.
Yeah, it's remember how
$27 billion worth of product that's already in the games.
Remember the old joke of day one DLC where it's already on the disc and you're just paying to unlock it? Well, that's generally what you're getting on these things right now. Like I said, that's the market. Get used to it.
That's crazy though. $27 billion in already in the game assets. That's just ridiculous.
Ben, you can you've always made the argument, well, it's the whales that spend most of the money.
It's true.
All right. Now, grantedly speaking, that you may be correct. All right. We'll say 50% of that is whales.
Probably less. Probably more.
I'm being generous.
Yeah.
I'd be generous in the aspect of saying 50%. All right, 50. I would say 50% is really generous. I'd probably be willing to bet it's more 20 to 30% of that because even
70 to 80% of the income is probably whales.
I
think it is.
I would be 100% against that. I think it would be the exact opposite end of it.
Not from the stuff that I've seen.
If you have one person spend $2,000 on a game, that's a lot of fucking money to spend for one person. Okay, but if you have 2,000 people spend $1, that's still the same amount of money in the long run. So statistically, you would have to say that a larger portion is spending less. That doesn't mean everybody's buying it. It just means that not everybody's dropping $60.
There was an article about a 19-year-old spending $10,000 on loot boxes for one game.
and $10,000 of 27 billion is less than 1%.
Yeah, but
All right.
$10,000 from one guy. You don't need
Yeah,
many
and it's
whales
one
to
game.
make up a whole bunch
For
of
one
that.
game.
No, you don't. But if you have a game, okay, like I can't think of anything off the top of my head. We'll just do like a Call of Duty game. All right, that's somebody paying for a game. All right, now if you're talking about something like I don't know Pokemon that's free, okay, and you have a lot more saturation of a gaming market on a Pokemon game like Pokemon Go. All right, because if you have a cell phone, which almost everybody has a cell phone now, you can download and play that game. All right, now whale that spends $10,000 on that game, which I'm sure there's people that have dumped that type of money in there. That's a lot of money. All right, but if you have 3 billion people playing it, okay, if you have 10, 15, 20, 30 people dropping $10,000, that's a lot of money. But if you have 100,000 people dropping $1, that's $100,000 profit right there. So it just comes down to the aspect that a lot of people are, almost everybody's going to spend a few dollars. All right, even if it's $1 or $2, if you times that by 300, 500, 800 people, that's a lot more money statistically than the one person who's spending 80. You know, so
It was Overwatch, I think. $10,000 on Overwatch. No, I'm sorry. Just 10,000 over the last several years. He's 19 years old.
I'd like to know what he's doing for a living.
Not anything, probably. But anyways,
10,000 pounds. So it's
we'll call it roughly $10,000.
Yeah. He's addicted.
He's
gambling,
absolutely addicted to gambling. We did lose Tornsel. He turned his microphone, his camera off. That's all we got. We do have the Infinity Wars trailer to watch, but we may wait for Saul to come back to watch that. What do you think?
Yeah, wait for Soul for that one.
And I need to restart Zoom because it's
Man.
lagging behind for some reason.
Torn Soul needed more room for coffee. Wait, so how did we end that one?
We just sort of ended it. Are we gonna wait? Do you want to wait for Saul to get back to watch Infinity War trailer? Okay,
That's fine. I could
okay.
real quick.
So we'll do an outro. I'm gonna restart Zoom, and then we'll figure out what game we're gonna be playing. We'll be back in like 2 minutes. Oh, I should do an outro. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like and comment and all those things. And if you're watching us,
Give us
the finger. And if you're watching us on Twitch, please follow. We do this every Friday night at 8. So we'll be back in a few minutes.